Hello, this is the Mega Construx Halo Heroes Series 5 collections of individually sold figures. This particular series here is celebrating the 10th anniversary of Halo 3. So I'm going to start with the Master Chief himself. He comes with the flamethrower with paint applications on both heat shields, so it's just mirrored from side to side with the shark face on it of sorts. Throwback to the 1940s, and the flame itself is just a single color. It almost looks like it's two, with just a slightly more darker orangish color towards the end, but it's just thicker there. But that looks pretty good. I think that the weapon itself is fairly collectible and brings some real value to the figure, but the figure without the weapon is pretty fantastic as well. You see, this figure does not have a wash. They actually used a gunmetal gray with a hand applied kind of dry brush application all over the entire model, and that has a little bit of metallic flake in it, which adds a little extra depth, gives you some sparkles in some points, and just, you know, really dirties him up and shows some of the edges of some of the more geometric facets of the armor in all places, especially around the arms and the lower legs. Has the I think probably stamped application of the bright silver to the right upper breastplate to show the battle damage there, which is appropriately placed and appropriately shaped. I think they did a good job with the visor for this scale. It looks much better in real life than it does here on camera, super up close. But they do have some black paint application, obviously at the base, but then around the sides, and a little bit of outlining around the top as well to make that stand out a little bit better. So good applications of various techniques to pull this whole thing off, and the gunmetal application goes all the way around, not just the camera-friendly sides. So I think that was it was just something that added a lot of value to this figure and really makes it unique amongst the many Master Chiefs that they have done up to this point. Only thing that I think is missing is an alternate weapon. It would have been nice to also come with a assault rifle, you know, just have a more standard pose if you want that as an option. Next up is the Arbiter, and this is intended to be the Arbiter from Halo 3, the Arbiter from Halo 2, but the Halo 3 version of him. Thel 'Vadam, and not the Halo Legends Arbiter Fal Chatami, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm not pronouncing that incorrectly. If I am, you know who I'm talking about, so you'll forgive me. But this is the Halo 3 Arbiter. He is supposed to be gold. He was gold in Halo 3. A lot of people are against that for some reason, have forgotten that he had golden armor. Insist that he didn't have golden armor, but he absolutely did have golden armor. You can still play the game to this day, but this is too gold. This is too bright, I think. This is actually done with two different colors of gold, so the plastic itself is a more saturated, slightly orangish tinged color, and then they just brushed over all of that with a desaturated, more pale champagne gold color, which I think makes for a really great combination. Really enhances the metallic nature of it. It's like a metallic, non-metallic kind of design that comes out of that. But just the base color, like I said, is just too saturated and too bright. That's unfortunate. I think that they could have really done an amazing, near perfect replica of him if they had just changed out that undercolor, but they might not have a color that's quite appropriate for it. He's got the dark blue color, which is it's like a lapis color. It's really rich. It's like a very saturated, slightly brighter navy blue as the base color. But yeah, a really good looking figure. Gosh, all the filigree kind of work in the helmet shows up so well with the two layers of gold on this. And then his sword is amazing as well. It's got multiple paint applications on that. Gives it just a nice liveliness. I think the longer you look at it, the less motion you see in it, the less depth you see, as you just start to see the exact the exact techniques that are used, exactly what's printed there. But if you don't look at it too closely, like we're looking at it right now in real life, it actually just, it looks great. Maybe it could have used a little bit more color rather than, just bringing in a little bit of that pink kind of cloudiness that they have with the clear base color. But overall, the whole figure looks great. It's just too bright. Here's the return of a classic Cortana, now with actual posable elbows. They had to do a new torso in order to accommodate the new joint pieces as well. And she's printed, or she's molded in a consistent, transparent, light, kind of cyanish blue color with a lot of paint applications that are actually stamped on. So rather than being sprayed or rather than being marbled in, these are all applied with some level of precision, actual circuitry patterns put on there, and they have some paint applied for the eyes. Now the eyes look a little bit creepy. Looks a little bit better in real life, but not too much better. They do kind of stand out. They printed some, or painted some hair on her as well, and that's a nice subtle, slightly violet color that goes really, really well with this. And it has kind of a satin finish to it as well. That's nicely chosen. I think that may have actually turned out better than they expected. Some of the pieces being made with the softer plastic, such as the upper legs you see there, have a little bit of frostiness, so there's not quite as much translucency there, or transparency. It's more translucent instead. You can also see a little bit of that in the chest towards the top area of it, but it's a pretty good looking figure. Does not have any weapon included for this one. I actually think I liked the color scheme of the original one a little bit better. Had a little bit more of the cyans in it. Didn't go quite as far towards the blue. The original Cortanas were actually probably closer to this in its hue, but this just has the lightness that I recall from the games, just in general. But it's so much nicer to be able to actually pose the figure now. And what I'm not showing you here is that this new Cortana also comes with, well, she doesn't have a weapon or anything to hold because she shouldn't, but she comes with this. She comes with your own Guilty Spark, or her own Guilty Spark. So that's very nice to be able to get. I'm glad that they didn't try to separate this out as its own separate figure. Comes with the eyepiece already pre-installed, and it's just a good one. If you didn't get one previously, it's going to be really good to be able to get this. It doesn't really pose up very well with the stand that's included. I think the best thing you can do for that is to use the little angle, the 90-degree portion of it, stick that into the side of the hole that's on the back here, like that, and then you can just kind of turn it off like that. It's not a great look. It's not great, but if you want to just pose these consistently, I think that's about the best you're going to get without adding your own pieces. Here's Sergeant Johnson with a brand new head mold, I think just for him. I think this figure looks great. You can see that this one has, once again, dry brushing added to it, but this time it's more of a traditional silver to get the battle damage, scraped, freshly scraped metal look on many of the pieces. Maybe on some of the pieces it doesn't seem quite appropriate, but again, if you're not looking at this super close with super fine detail, I think that it just looks really good on display. I think that head mold looks fantastic. You got the little insignia, the little UNSC logo that's barely printed onto the cap. It's so tiny, but it's rendered very well for its resolution. He comes with the classic style of splazer with multiple paint applications, including the barrel done in silver. They use the matte color for the black paint that's placed onto it, so that's good. And obviously this is very appropriate for him for Halo 3. Yeah, this is really good. I mean, you compare this, let me go ahead and let you see the rest of it from different angles as well, but you compare this to the Halo 2 version of them that we got. Maybe there's a little bit too much dry brushing going on with the silver, but I'm happy with the the bristle texture and also the technique that was used. I mean, the people doing these are going through hundreds of these in a day, so you definitely cannot expect, you know, custom level of detail and consistency, but the brush is the correct brush to use, and the overall technique appears to be very, very good for something that's being mass produced like this. So I'm happy with that. The eyes may look a little bit dead, but you compare them to, again, the Halo 2 version of them with way too much white of the eyes. Nah, that didn't work. And also the shape of the head here just doesn't quite work. It's a little too generic. I think the overall look of the face of the Halo 2 one wasn't bad, but the shape of the mold is just so much better, so much more recognizable. And yeah, I think if you want to add a little bit of white to the eyes, it'll probably make sense, but I'm personally glad that they left it out, because I think it would have looked really weird to do this figure with that, especially because they actually have the irises that are molded in separate from the whites that are at different levels. Here's Prophet of Truth ready to go ham with his spiker there. This figure is actually very, very, very similar to the previous version that we got. Used the same color for the robes, same color for almost everything except for the crown, which is done here in a slightly bronzish gold, but you know, not as bright as the color that was used, for instance, as the base color for the Arbiter, and that was used for the previous crown. So the new one, the crown doesn't match the color of the chest, whatever that protrusion is there. It just stands out a little bit, and obviously he is dirty. He just did a little bit of quick application of some kind of maroon color there to dirty him up a little bit, and he comes with the spiker, which is just plain. A little bit disappointing with the you know, the weapon. There's nothing done to it relative to the rest of the series. Again, the dirtying of him to me just doesn't look that great. It just stands out too much. There's too much contrast between the base color and that color, which lets you really see the brush strokes and exactly what was done in each spot. Now, this is a Halo 3 Brute Bodyguard, and it is a special figure to me because over the years I've had a lot of trouble figuring out what Mega was doing with a number of their Brute officers, with majors, captains, captain majors, and bodyguards that they've done in the past, with color schemes that just don't quite make sense. They don't match the designation that they've given them. They've even done silver bodyguards before, which is a thing that didn't ever even exist at all, as far as anyone could tell. But this is almost perfect for Halo 3 bodyguards by name. Almost perfect. It has a pretty good match of color with the armor. That's the one thing that's a little bit off. It should be, it's a little bit cyan here. It should be a little less green, a little bit more reddish. It should be towards the purplish side, just ever so slightly, but that's completely forgivable. It looks great as a figure. The dry brushing of the silver on this is excellent. I love that. It's got the dark red color used in some of the places underneath there, so that's pretty good. Obviously the molding is done well with these modern figures, and he's got the Brute shot there, which has 2 paint applications. So it has obviously the silver blade, but then they've got this kind of really desaturated mauve kind of color there. It's a very slightly reddish gray, and it's just very earthy looking, and it comes out looking kind of brownish, but has a little bit of tinge in it. It looks really good. It's also done in a completely flat paint. The dry brushing goes all the way around the back of this figure. It looks really good on the back of the chest armor, and especially this shoulder armor here on this side looks great to me. Again, using the correct brush, really good technique for something, especially for something that's done in such high volume. Yes. And the helmet looks good as well. Yes. Just a little bit bright on the skin tone, I think it looks okay for the hands, the feet a little bit, but don't take this off. Oof. Yeah, he definitely has not been out there working in the field. He has no tan whatsoever. But yeah, overall, one of the better looking brutes I think that they've done, and definitely one of the more accurate brute officers or non-miners that I think they've ever done. Such a fantastic collection of figures here. I'm so glad they made these, and it just sucks that it's so hard to find them. They've been released in such small quantities in so few places that the resale prices of these, straight off the shelf on eBay is going up to $30 or more each. Keep in mind these are $5 figures, $5 for each, which I think is a reasonable price for today for figures of this size, just relative to the rest of the market. I really dislike scalping practices of third parties, but in this case it's not scalping practices that are hurting the market here. People, a lot of the eBay listings that I've seen have put these up with no reserve, or just really low starting prices, and it's just the market itself that is bidding these things up to $30 or more a pop in some cases, and that's really unfortunate. It's just so difficult to get these things that so many people want. These individual figure packs are selling really well. They are what the market wants, and I'm glad that Mega is doing them. I hope that they will continue. It'll be tough for them to do better than this. As a series, it has so many heavy hitters. I do wish that the Arbiter was darker, but beyond that, no real missteps here. So another good series. I'm looking forward to checking out the next one here very extremely soon, comically soon. And I just hope, for the sake of so many fans worldwide, that these things become more available, easier to find, more consistently released. Anyway, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'll talk to you again soon.